Hi everyone, it's Meredith with Soul Navigation. I am so happy to have you here. And today we are going to talk about the perfect conjunction. It's happening January 12th, 2020. I hope you'll mark your calendars. I've got tons to say, but I'm going to do this in a stream of consciousness, so I know I'm not going to get it all out there. I could probably talk about this conjunction between Pluto and Saturn. I'm sure you know all about it, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a different take and a little bit of a different spin. And I'm going to talk to you about it, how it affects you personally. And if it is having or in relationship with any of the planets in your chart, what that might bring up and what that might look like for you on a real personal level. Globally, it's pretty dramatic. So what I want to say to you is this. I kind of want you to think about some dates. I want you to get a piece of paper and a pencil if you can and go back to 12/20/2017, because that's when Saturn actually entered Capricorn, and that's when we started this dance in truth. But I also want you to think about April 6th through May 28th of 2019, because that's when Pluto and Saturn were within 3 degrees of one another. And that's when they are that close, that's when you really can start feeling the energy come to a boil. And then I'll say after that May 28th, 2019, Saturn started to retrograde and they started to go apart. So they didn't come back together until December 6th, 2019. So we kind of have been feeling this push and pull between these two planets, and it comes to this perfect conjunction on the 12th of January 2020. Now, we've been doing this dance with Pluto and Saturn for all of 2019. And we are going to do it again for 2020, but it's going to feel a little bit different and it's going to be a little bit more intense. I will go back to those dates in a little bit, but I want to tell you my take on this and what I think Pluto and Saturn is asking you. I've done quite a bit of research, and I want to tell you a couple things. The first thing I want to tell you is, we haven't had this aspect. Pluto moves so slowly that I believe it was 1284 and 1285, the year 1284 and 1285. And around that time, maybe not exactly in that year, but around that time, China was invaded and completely taken over, and Wales was completely consumed by England. And if you think about if you think about this, Pluto and Saturn in Capricorn coming together, that will not happen for another 735 years. So when you have a transit of this magnitude, with this much potency, with these two enormous powerhouse planets, you get nothing but gargantuan energy. And it doesn't take much. You can turn on radio, a podcast, the news, and you can see pretty much every single day how impactful the world events are today. So to say this is a small thing is just a lie. But I am a straight talker. I don't like to sugarcoat, but I also am an optimistic person. And so I kind of want to give you the good and the bad and the ugly. So Pluto and Saturn are going to meet at the same exact place, which is 22 degrees Capricorn. And if you are a Capricorn or an Aries or a Libra or a Cancer, you are going to take the hit the hardest. And if your life in 2019, and you're one of those signs, Capricorn, Cancer, Aries, or Libra, didn't change, didn't alter, it wasn't hard in any way, shape, or form, I will be shocked. I will be surprised. Please leave me a comment below if you are one of those signs and your life was just flat out boring, because I'll ask you if you're sleepwalking. I'll ask you if you have been in a coma. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be hard. I personally had a phenomenal year. Phenomenal. I had a great year with my business, with my love, with my family, with my life. And I have my moon at 22 degrees Libra. So I will say, though, that I had cataclysmic change in my life. Enormous. Some of the biggest changes in my entire life happened in 2019. And I have a 22 degrees Libra moon. So I want to ask you, what do you have at 22 degrees? Where is 22 degrees Capricorn in your chart? Where is 22 degrees Libra, 22 degrees Aries, or 22 degrees Cancer in your chart? Because those are the bullseyes, okay? Those are the bullseyes. And those particular signs at that degree are in exact difficult or challenged placement to this conjunction. So if you have any sign at 22 degrees, you're talking directly to this transit, to this Saturn-Pluto conjunction. Now, if one of your planets is at 22 degrees, or give or take an orb, I like to take 5 degrees before and 5 degrees after, maybe a little bit closer, but no more than 5 for these outer planets. But if you've got planets at 22 degrees, 5 degrees before, 5 degrees after again, and they're in Pisces or Scorpio or Taurus or Virgo, you're going to have an easier time with this transit. So if your sun is at 22 degrees Scorpio, you're going to have an easier time with this transit than if your sun was, give or take 5 degrees either way, forwards or backwards, at Capricorn, Cancer, Aries, or Libra. If you're a Leo or a Sag or an Aquarius or even a Gemini, I don't feel that you will, I don't believe you will be as impacted by this transit as much, unless you've got something, right, in those cardinal signs, Libra, Cancer, Aries, and Capricorn. Now, what is being ushered in? A metamorphosis. To say it very sweetly to you, a transformation. But what's really being asked of you is to genuinely and soulfully face changes that will come about in your life. This is a game-changing, life-changing, cataclysmic, perhaps forever altering aspect. Your life will most likely, if you are one of those cardinal signs, Capricorn, Cancer, Aries, or Libra, will jump the train track and will jump the train track in a way that could be painful, in a way that could be hard or challenging. I'll tell you why. When you've got Pluto and you've got Saturn in the mix, our minds and our worlds and the information we can receive can oftentimes be spoken or thought or perceived as worst case scenarios. We can become fatalistic in times like this. But this is a high stakes transit. A new direction wants to be found. A new perspective wants to be grown. A new way of life is brewing inside of you, most likely. Or you will see that deaths or losses or goodbyes, or things that you don't personally value, force you into change. So your life is changing, and this started in 2017, 12/20/2017, and it's going to be completely done and finished. It culminates on January 12th, 2020. And by February 17th, Saturn moves away from Pluto. And we get this little bit of a reprieve, but not really, because by September 10th through October 13th of 2020, the two are at it again. They're within 3 degrees of one another. And so it's like we get pelleted throughout 2020 with this energy that is begging us to change our lives forever. And it might also just be that there is an external situation that changes your life forever that you didn't even create, that you didn't even, weren't even aware of. So some things you just cannot prepare for. When Pluto is in the mix, Pluto is asking you to transform at the soul level. It's asking you to go through the dark night of the soul. It's asking you to face your fears. Pluto is asking you on a very personal level. It's also asking the collective. You can see this with protests and marches all around the world right now, from South America to Lebanon to Asia to Hong Kong. I mean, it's everywhere. But Pluto on a personal level is asking you to face your fears, face the parts of you that are not yet known, to dig down deep into the deepest pieces of yourself and discover your potential, your power, your will. Look deeply within yourself, into your soul, and dig it up and know your worth and do something with your soul, with yourself, that matters. Saturn wants to make a difference. Saturn is, Saturn pays you out, not in money, not in love, but in karma. It is the reward for your good and bad deeds. And so Pluto and Saturn are not easy planets to make friends with. But if you are unafraid to face Pluto and the darkest parts of your soul, where do you sabotage yourself? How do you kill off tiny pieces of yourself? How do you hurt yourself? In what ways do you cut your will or your power out? How do you masochistically treat yourself when you are being a masochist? How have you become enslaved to your demons or nightmares or personal tragedies, wounds, and hurts? What wounds do you constantly have a love affair with? What wounds do you chase? What broken pieces of your heart do you chew on over and over and over? That's Pluto. Pluto is asking you to look at that side of yourself. And it's sort of like, if I can be so gross, but Pluto is pretty gross, especially when you're not friends with it, and especially when you are afraid. But Pluto is like dissecting vomit, truthfully. It is looking at the goriest of the gore that you create, that you do to yourself, that you put out into the world. And when you're not afraid to look at it, that's when you can begin to heal it. Now, Saturn is not afraid of hard work usually. If it's in a strong aspect or a good aspect in your chart, or if your Saturn is in a good aspect to this conjunction. So if you've got Saturn in Pisces at 22 degrees or 23 or 24 or 19 degrees or 20 degrees or 21 degrees. So between 19 degrees and 25 degrees. And let's say it's in Pisces. Well, you know that Capricorn likes Pisces. Earth loves water. So that's a good aspect. So you might be able to dissect your vomit, if you will. Forgive me for the gross, not very Libra moon metaphor. But I am talking Pluto. You're going to be able to do that better, and you're going to find treasures inside your dissection. You're going to find golden nuggets of truth. You're going to walk through the dark night of the soul with more ease and grace. You will be able to walk across hot coals barefoot without getting burned because you've got the mindset. So Pluto is the psychological game. Now, Saturn is the karmic payout, and Saturn wants to matter. Now, I could go on and on. I could do an 8-hour video just on what is Pluto. I could do another 12-hour video on what is Saturn. But I want to keep this short, and I want to keep it relative to you. So Saturn is going to ask you to face something hard and difficult. Saturn is saying through this transformation and with this next stage in life, you will need to bring probably one thing, maybe two, but I'll say it like this. You will need to bring maturity and wisdom to guide yourself across those hot coals. Saturn wants to make a difference. Saturn wants to build something that matters, that has a greatness in it, that can create a legacy, something that can actually outlive my time on Earth. That's why this is not a small thing. So this is what I want to ask you to do. This is the time and this is the year, and I believe 2019 set you up for doing this in 2020, to let go of the frivolous, to quit having behaviors that are meaningless, that are superficial, that are actually self-sabotaging, and on a very personal level, and to find your will and do things that light your soul on fire. I also believe that your attitude really matters. And when you approach this transit with pure grace, now grace is the highest form of love, because grace is the embodiment of forgiveness. And when you can truly forgive someone who has done you so wrong, maybe even yourself, you will be able to manage this transit so much better. It's true. I think we're being asked to come from a higher place. Now, I want to say it in one more way, blending the two energies, okay? Stick with me. And please leave me a comment below and let me know if you feel like you're getting this. This is a little different twist than some of the other things that I've heard. But I believe that this transit is so potent, so powerful, so enormous, so big, so gargantuan. It's slow, so the unfolding of it is very, very slow. But I believe that we are trying to be collectively slingshotted, is that a word? Slingshotted from the third dimension to the fifth dimension. I do. And I think we are seeing corruption in government all across the world. And we are seeing our world erode before our very eyes. We're seeing the corrosion of humanity. We are seeing the repulsivity of how we treat other humans. We are seeing that we are literally ruining and killing our planet with plastics and unnecessary greedy food consumption, right? We are seeing corruption and I don't even know the word, it's just disgusting, with money, banks, taxes, money laundering. And we're seeing that there is such a deep, deep, almost addiction to lying and not telling the truth. It has infiltrated almost every aspect of our world. So the Saturn-Pluto conjunction collectively is begging us to find our integrity, our collective integrity, and our individual integrity. So when you live in alignment with your truth, and your truth does not hurt another human being, or your truth does not hurt, alienate, bully, demean, demise, put down other living beings, that's when you are living in pure integrity. And that's what creates beautiful, gorgeous karma. That's when this transformation will be easier. So get in touch with your values and your beliefs and your integrity, and live at that soul's level. What makes your soul ignite? What makes you feel like you make a difference? to others? How can you step outside of your own self and share your gifts with the world that will help the collective humanity transform, and transform with integrity, without lying, cheating, or stealing, right? So I believe that we have a system that is corrupt and filled with lies, that has cheated many, many people, many races, many religions. Look at what's going on in China right now with the capturing of Muslims and the mass graves. It's horrible. I don't know if you read about that. Look at Australia with the fires. The whole country is burning. Global warming. What I want to tell you is, what ignites your soul? Do that thing. Don't half-ass 2020. You got to play full out, because the people that don't play full out, the people that lie to themselves or to others, that cheat the system or cheat themselves or cheat on the exam, or steal time and energy, waste time and energy, steal money, steal truth, will suffer greatly. Now, I want to talk to you about one other thing, not making this a political video, but you can see this in our politics. You are going to see government systems with this Capricorn Pluto completely collapse. You are going to see a loss of faith like you've never seen it before. In 2019, we were plagued with that. It's going to continue in 2020. But I believe that the system has to have a massive breakdown in order for there to be a revolution, if you will, where the people demand at the soul level more, better, integrity. We're not all on the same page with what that looks like, but that's what the people will fight for. So we're being set up right now to fight for something, to fight for what you believe in. So I believe that the corruption had to be exposed, and we had to dance with it for a little while so we could learn from it and be slingshotted into the fifth dimension. Many of us, and especially if you're watching this, I think you're probably a person who craves the fifth dimension. And some of us have built a third dimensional world, but we're fifth dimension beings, or at least awakened to what it is and trying to be. And in that more awake state, we realize, and I think this is what's happening with this transit, I think we're being launched into the fifth dimension. With that, I'll give you one example, okay? I wish I could talk to you all day, all night about this, but because it's exciting. But I see the fifth dimension as sort of living on a spectrum. I see the third dimension, which most of us, have built our lives around a third dimension concept, as opposites. Like, I'm good, you're bad. I'm black, you're white. I'm Christian, you're Muslim. I'm gay, you're straight. And I'm rich, you're poor, whatever, okay? Opposites. The left brain, the right brain. Now, when you're in the fifth dimension, you see all things on a spectrum. So let's just take genders, for example. There's male and female, right? Well, I went and looked up genders, and do you know there are 52 known and stated genders? I'm not kidding. There's a spectrum. So when you just open your mind to just that one thing, it's awe-inspiring what can be created out of that. Now, not everybody likes that. I get it. But it's just sort of shell-shocking. Now do that with everything. Open your mind up. Let it expand to the farthest boundaries imaginable. And that's where we're headed. So you have a left eye and a right eye and a third eye. So this transit is going to require you using your third eye, your intuition. So collectively, I think we're going to see that there will be lots of collapses and lots of damage done to our earth in order for us to restore the desire to save it. Many, many, many people cannot even cherish anything until they have lost it. So I think we're in the process of losing ourselves in order to collectively go through the dark night of the soul in order to resurrect better as better people with integrity. Now, let's move through your chart a little bit. And if you have a comment or a question, please put it in the notes below. And if you don't know me, Google me. My name is Meredith. I'm an evolutionary astrologer. I've been doing this for 23 years. Please go check out all my other videos. I think you'll like them, especially the one I did in April 2019. And it says massive retrogrades, because that is a piece of this transit that I'm talking about right now. It's a really good video. But let's talk about this, where this falls in your chart personally. So the collective, you're going to see transformation, reformation. You're going to see systems and structures in governments, money, food, banking. You're going to see even films, Hollywood, messaging, communication styles, genders, sexuality. All of it is going to have some sort of metamorphosis and transformation around it. Remember, this is at 22 degrees. So if this aspect, Capricorn, like if you've got this Capricorn aspect dancing with in square, in sextile, or in trine, okay? So if it is touching your Mercury, so if you have your Mercury between 19 degrees and 25 degrees of any sign, this Capricorn conjunction is communicating with it. And again, if it is in one of the cardinal signs, it's going to be more challenged. If it is in the water signs, it is going to be easier to manage, and it's going to manifest with a little softer edges. I do want to say one thing before I talk about all the planets and how they'll be affected by this. Take care of your body, take care of your life. In 2020, we are more fragile creatures, and nurture yourself. And don't be with toxic people. Don't take toxic things. Know your boundaries, know your limits, and don't take undue risks. Psychologically, physically, financially, emotionally. Okay, so if your Mercury sits between 19 and 22 degrees, and it touches this conjunction, perfect conjunction. By the way, right now, it's January 4th. This is already happening. So we've been in it since last January, and it is exact on the 12th, but it's already in play, and it's going to dance with us, right? And it's going to ebb and flow. And go back to the beginning of this video and get those dates and write those down. So if this conjunction is playing with your Mercury, what's going to happen is your perspective is going to change. Your mind is being asked to change. Somebody is trying to change your mind. Your mind might be changed. You might learn something brand new. it is about knowledge. You will see that uh, hidden secrets might come out. You might learn something brand new. You might write a book. It's about knowledge and communication. And it's about um, the way you'll speak or talk or the information you will receive. Now, you might receive some information that is so disheartening, that is so unbearable, that is so horrific, just like the collective. It's like a piece of knowledge or a piece of information or something new that you've learned will go in, will force you into caverns inside of you like you've never known. And it will turn things and twist things, hopefully, for you to take a look at and transform from that knowledge, from that new piece of knowledge that you are gleaning or gaining. So if this, moving on, if this touches your Venus, if this conjunction is playing with your Venus, in challenging aspect, it's going to attack your self-worth. You will probably feel excluded. You will probably feel unlovable. You will probably feel like you're not liked, or your friend group is detaching, disappearing, or going away. You will feel like you have to let go of love. If it's in a softer aspect, you might be the person who steps away from something unfulfilling, and it ultimately is rewarding. Even if it's challenging, it's ultimately rewarding. It just might take a little bit more time to manifest. If this perfect conjunction is playing with your Mars, there is going to be monumental change requiring enormous courage, sweat equity, effort, and energy. So you might feel really discouraged. You might feel really scared, really frightened. You might be having panic attacks. You might be feeling depressed or angry, like you just can't get the ball rolling. You might feel like you're sort of forced to dance with the devil or play with the devil. If your Mars is being touched by this, I do want to warn you that you could experience really tragic accidents. So be extra, extra, extra careful if your Mars is in Capricorn, Aries, Libra, or Cancer between 19 degrees and 25 degrees. Be careful. Go get, your medical tests, your colonoscopy, make sure your parachute is good before you jump out of the plane. Be very careful, okay? And if it's in soft aspect, if it's in one of those water signs, or, Aquarius, Leo, Gemini, and Sag are neutral signs. So it's just very neutral. And if it's in the water signs, plus Taurus and Virgo, Taurus, Virgo, Scorpio, Pisces, and it's in Mars, I would say you might get more vitality to do the hard work and to go deep within. So if this is playing with your Jupiter, it's going to test your faith. It's going to test your sense of it's going to test your beliefs and your faith. It's going to, maybe if it's in a hard aspect, it's going to make you go way beyond your limits, putting yourself in jeopardy. But it's asking you to reshape your belief system and reshape your philosophy, your personal philosophy, which, if you think about it, guides your every decision, what you believe in, what you'll stand up for, what your truth is. So you might reshape that. If this is sitting on your Saturn, truthfully, you might be staring down the barrel of a gun, confronting your greatest fears. I say that metaphorically, by the way. But staring at your greatest fears and your greatest weaknesses, really being asked to make an honest assessment of yourself. Getting really, really real with yourself. You know, if this is on your Saturn, that's a Saturn return, and Pluto's there. So this could be some of your darkest years. And these years will grow you and shape you and reconstruct you. So imagine it like the Twin Towers coming down in New York City on 9/11. And they fall and they crumble and then they just become rubble and ash. And then we have to pick up those pieces and we have to rebuild. And in some ways we're stronger for it, and in some other ways we're traumatized for it. But that's what it feels like. There's a piece of your life that is crumbling, falling away in order for you to rebuild it with a stronger sense of self and integrity. So you'll have to break through the walls and the resistance of change, and you might have to fight off depression a little bit if it's playing with your Saturn. And that's, you know, if your Saturn sits between 19 and 22 degrees in those cardinal signs. So Uranus, you know, if Uranus sits between 19 and 22 degrees of those cardinal signs, well, there's a breakthrough for you. You want to break free, and there will probably be shocking news. You will probably feel continuously shocked by the news. You will feel like you want to take your shackles off, and you may even become unglued. You might advance your life with technology. You might progress your life. You might see that you really move forward in such a positive way. If it's in the 2 water signs and 2 earth signs, so Taurus, Virgo, Scorpio, Pisces, you might see that you become a maverick in some way, a real leader, a progressive, thought-provoking, innovative leader that creates breakthroughs and autonomy and individuality. So if this conjunction is playing with Neptune, you know, in aspect to Neptune, it can also bring a lot of fear around hopelessness and disillusionment. It can create a drug addiction or an alcohol addiction, and it can really not let you know where the boundaries are. So you can overdose, you can take a drug that could kill you, because you can't see the edge. You can't see where the boundary is. You can't see where the stop is. So with this in aspect to Neptune, you can feel lonely, alienated, depressed, sad. You can also develop a real intuitive ability where you have that psychic break and you can step into the other world, if you will, the psychic world, the intuitive world, the spiritual dimension. You can have a spiritual breakthrough that's both scary and exhilarating. So if Pluto is here, you know, if you've got 22 degrees Pluto, in hard aspect, it's a changing of the guard, and that's a painful change. It's asking you to step up and step in. You will see that, depending on what house it's in, that there is enormous change in your life. Enormous. If it's in the second house, it's going to be enormous change around money or self-worth. So if it's on your sun, your whole concept of your life and your identity is going to have a transformation and a metamorphosis. Psychologically, you might wake up and just totally experience yourself as a whole nother person. You could be kind of going through like a gender change in a way. Now, I mean metaphorically, but it could be literally too. But it's like you wake up one day, you put yourself to bed as a kid, and you wake up a young woman, or you realize that your identity and how you have been living, you want to completely alter or change, or it will change because somebody has left you, and you have to become somebody who you weren't yet. So if it's on the moon, or if it's in aspect to the moon, again, 22 degrees, 5 degrees earlier, 5 degrees after. If it's in challenge aspect, you can feel really lonely and emotional, dark, depressed, sad. You can feel like it's too hard, it's too big, I don't want to deal with it. You can feel like this is just a depressing world. You can become very, very cynical. You can be really down on yourself. You can cry for no reason. But if it's in soft aspect, you can also develop a real emotional resiliency, which is beautiful. And you can get emotionally tough, right? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So I want you to think of Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, because I think his life is going to change dramatically in 2020. And I believe his sun, his identity, is at 22 degrees Capricorn. So I just feel like maybe he'll quit Amazon and just go colonize Mars. I don't know what he's going to do. But that's how dramatic this aspect is. It's something very, 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 very big. This isn't like you know, I don't know. This isn't tiny. This is not small. This isn't like, oh, I think I should take a math class and learn something new. No, this is like enormous times to change your life. And I also want to say, God, there's so much more. I took some notes here, and I wanted to go through each of the signs, but I don't think I will, because I like the idea of what does this mean if my planets are dancing with this transit. But I want to just show you real quick here. Hold on, let me just see something here. Oh, okay, so let's do this. I want to show you this chart. Hold on. Oh, okay, just one second. Sorry about this. And I don't think this video is going to get edited, so please forgive me for all this. Right here. Okay, so here is January 4th, and I'll pull it down here. Okay, look at all of this. The South Node, Mercury, the Sun, Saturn, and Pluto. I believe Mercury is out of bounds. So we're going to get a ton of new information. And it's probably going to be disturbing and bother us to the point where we're going to want to do something about it. Okay, here's January 9th, and then there's January 10th. And this is the full moon eclipse. So we've got the moon at 25, and it's not the right exact time. I'm so sorry, I didn't put the time in here, but it is on January 10th that we get this full moon. Of course, it's a little bit earlier than 7:59 p.m. That's Pacific time, but I just wanted to show you this right here and how absolutely powerful this is. Also, Ceres is in here. So I want to say something. Ceres is the mother, the asteroid that is oftentimes associated with mother. And Saturn, for me, is oftentimes associated with father. So I think families are really going to shift and change right now. Your family could have really big changes. And it could have really big shifts. And we haven't had this Pluto Saturn again since 1285, right? I'm not surprised that the wall between, the southern American border and Mexico is going up. I mean, is it really? I don't know, but I'm not surprised because Saturn and Pluto is, boy, is very restrictive, and yet I feel like it's going to come down too. It's going to go up, and also it's going to go up only to come down. And I like that metaphor for this transit. So where in your life have you built walls, right? Where have you built walls, and where do walls need to come down? So with this lunar eclipse on January 10th, oh my God, please, please be very careful. I want you to be so careful on January 10th on that eclipse. It's a very, very, very potent time. And you can travel during that time. I just don't want you to take giant risks. And like I am traveling, I'm actually doing an astrology conference. Um, oh, I guess I'm not doing it until the 20th, but I am traveling during that full moon, and I'm traveling during that great conjunction, and I'm not afraid, especially because I know that I know what's happening and I'm aware. And I feel like when you know what the expectations are, you can play the game right. You can play the game better, the game of life. And so I kind of know what is being asked of me. And if you have an awareness, one thing you can do is write down where in your life you want to improve. Where in your life are you sabotaging yourself, right? And make a commitment in 2020 to do better. Where in your life can you help the collective that sabotages themselves? What can you do to help others where they can't help yourselves, especially if you are a Pisces or a Scorpio or a Taurus or a Virgo, because you're not going to have it nearly as hard, or a Sagittarius or Gemini, even Aquarius and Leo, they have it a little bit easier, unless you've got your planets, unless you have cardinal planets that sit in hard aspects. So if you have your moon or your Venus, right, that part's going to be tough, but at least you get a little bit of support from those other planets that I just mentioned, and it will be kind of a mixed bag for you. But collectively, get ready to see this world change. It is going to have massive, this is going to bring in massive, massive changes to 2020. And don't you think we need them? I do. I think we need this so badly. So I'm not approaching this with fear as much as I'm approaching this with caution, with a new founded groundedness, a willingness to help, a willingness to amplify my integrity, a willingness to help others, a willingness to get my hands dirty. Gosh, can I just take another minute really quickly and tell you a quick story that happened? I was on the bus, I took the bus into Seattle about a month ago, and this man, this crazy deranged man who was filthy, by the way, who walked in with his hands down his pants, literally his hand. hands like down his pants, walking, up all around. The women on the bus were just like trying to find a new seat. Oh my gosh, I was on my headset listening to my podcast, and he was wigging out. And he said, somebody please call 911, please call 911. And do you know, every single, and I'm not against men or anything, I'm just telling you the story, how it played out. Every single man on that bus pretended to not hear him. And I'm not joking. It's like they didn't want to get involved. I know, the guy was deranged. He was weird. He was crazy. He was out of it. He had his freaking hand down his pants. But I looked at him. He wasn't near to me, but he wasn't far to me either. He was kitty cornering up there. And he pleaded, please, somebody call 911. Please, please, please. Nobody would. I realized, holy heck, this is going to be me. I'm going to have to call 911. So I did. And I asked him, I said, are you okay? What's happening? What are your symptoms? What are you going through? And he said, I'm dying. I'm going to die. And I said, okay. So I called 911, and 911 on this particular phone call, God bless those people. They're usually great. But I'm on a bus driving from my town 17 miles away into downtown Seattle at 7 o'clock at night. And the 911 operator says, well, what's your location? I said, I have no idea, but I'm bus 564 or whatever it was. And we just stopped at this stop, and we're on the bus. And she goes, ma'am, I need an address. I'm like, I have no idea. Can you just pin my cell phone? I'm somewhere on I-90 between, here and here. Oh my God, this went round and round and round. And no man would help. So a really wonderful girl, she was a lot younger than me, like 20 years younger. She came and rolled up her sleeves, literally rolled up her sleeves. She was like, tell me what's wrong with you. She got right into his face. How are you feeling? What are your symptoms? She went up, she asked the bus driver to please, like at the next stop, please stay parked. I was on the phone with 911 trying to tell them about him, what he looked like and what he was going through. And she was keeping him calm because she felt like he was going to become a detriment to the entire bus. So the two of us kind of assisted him and helped him and contained him. And the bus driver pulled over, and they did get a man to escort him. All of a sudden, like 8, isn't it funny how I don't know, maybe she just wanted to keep me on the phone. They found our bus, and there's like 8 fire trucks and all that for this guy. That's integrity. That's how you can help another. Nobody wanted to be bothered. Nobody wanted their Sunday night or whatever it was to be filled with that energy. And I understand. I didn't necessarily, I was scared. I thought the guy could hurt me, and I thought he was a pervert, and he had his hands down his pants, and it was really uncomfortable, and I stepped into it. And I'm not trying to give myself credit or kudos or anything, but what I'm saying is this is the year to be helpful. This is the year to be responsive. You are going to encounter that situation metaphorically over and over and over in 2020. You will see that your efforts, your wisdom, your energy is going to be needed, and the world is going to ask you to get your hands dirty, right? And be uncomfortable. So the theme song for 2020 is, it's gonna be uncomfortable, but growth is always uncomfortable. Again, my name is Meredith with Soul Navigation. It was such a pleasure to do this video. I hope you get something beautiful out of it. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared. Even in moments like that, when I was on the bus and I was scared, I chose to make my fear a secondary entity, a secondary feeling to my first primary feeling, which I had to dig down, find, bring up, and give, which was helpfulness. But that was not my initial. My initial feeling was like these other people where I don't have time. I don't know what I can do for this guy. I don't want to get hurt. But I pushed the fear to the background. And so you're going to be required to do some version of that story in your life for the collective mankind, for all living beings, for people who have it worse than you, for people who have less than you do. And you're going to be asked, because of Mercury's placement with this, to become informed and learn new things and teach yourself how to see a situation from a new perspective. From my house to yours, I wish you a very happy 2020, and I will be back doing my Sexy Seduction series, hopefully next Sunday at 9:30. I always load new content, 9:30 a.m. Pacific time on Sundays with Soul Navigation. I hope you're wonderful. Go check out all my other videos. I hope you like them. Take good care. Leave me a comment. I want to hear from you. I absolutely love hearing from you on my channel, and I try to answer every single question. Take good care.